founded by a woman named Kat Hoke. She's actually a little bit infamous because she got into some like hot water a couple of times in her work, but she's also quite inspiring. I encourage you to look her up on the internet. She does like some TED Talks. But basically her program, which a lot of the students at Pelican Bay State Prison are also participating in, called Defy, and now she's started a second one, Hustle 2.0. Takes the premise that a lot of people who are incarcerated are actually natural-born entrepreneurs, and it's just because of their specific racial and class situation that got them landed in prison rather than running giant companies worth millions of dollars. And so she harnesses sort of that energy and that skill set in this curriculum that she's developed that helps people who are incarcerated build really real-world skills to open businesses when they get out. But one of the things that she does to start off is, so she brings in these groups of volunteers that are business people that own companies, run companies, have created companies. She herself is a venture capitalist. Is that the word? Is that the phrase? Okay, just checking. All right, artisans found capitalism. That's what this is about, right? Okay, good. And she has the volunteers who are primarily white and come from a privileged economic background, and then the people who are incarcerated stand across from each other in long lines, and then does that exercise. It's a prolonged exercise for her class, which possibly some of you have seen. I think it's the Norwegian thing is on Facebook, where questions are asked like, did your parents get divorced before you were 10 years of age, and people step forward or stay where they are? So it's a series of questions like that, and it really brings to the fore the fact that we have a completely disproportionate amount of people of color who are incarcerated, and those on the bottom end of the economic spectrum than everybody else. That, of course, is a reality that I'm sure everybody here is like that song, wondering, what can I do about that? But I do think that communicating about it is the best thing to do at the moment. I mean, at least getting people on the same page. So maybe my first question might be is the statistics that you heard in the play that we read. I'm wondering who found those statistics to be surprising and totally shocking related to our prison system. Nobody. Oh, cool. Okay, maybe shocking. Yes, shocking. Yeah, I know. Horribly shocking. Yeah. So you would not wonder why that information is not widespread. I guess I'm just gonna open it up, you guys, because I have no idea what kind of question might help prompt. But yes.
Just the fact that so many other countries have, abandoned or abolished those practices was a surprise for me.
Ooh, American, what is that called? American special?
Exceptionalism.
We are in fact exceptional. We're exceptional.
Yes. Just even immigrant children are being sent to a private prison. The privatization of incarceration is, we talk about venture capitalists and training people in prison to go out and create private businesses to make profit. It's sort of, wow, what a weird
juxtaposition, huh?
Yeah. And the fact that immigrant children are being sent to privately run prisons in the United States of America for just being young and belonging to people from another country. That's astonishing.
The appropriateness of incarceration as a solution. It's very appropriate in the minds of our legislature. Also, you don't have to be a citizen to be incarcerated for long periods of time. I have a student who's got a 25-year plus sentence, and he's Armenian citizenship in American prison. Yes. I just wanted to say, please share whatever you feel like sharing. I guess.
There is a movie 13 documentary. I don't know. I hope
a lot of people know about that one.
Because that's like a real eye opener. It's pretty much explained there.
How many have seen that movie or heard of it?
What was the title?
13. It's about the 13th Amendment to the Constitution.
It's going to be showing at the B Street Community Center on Thursday night. Next Thursday night, I think. The NAACP local chapter is sponsoring it. So it's free. It's like 6 o'clock.
Who's sponsoring it?
The local NAACP chapter.
Just got, obviously you had to study a bit about the background, a little bit to understand the bigger picture of what's going on with your students. Did you come across any kind of understanding or analysis of like why America has this problem? Anybody that had a good analysis of that? Or how it fits in the bigger picture?
Yeah, I mean, I think the New Jim Crow South is one that people often bring up the book. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, is that I did not, in fact, study as to why our mass incarceration system is so effed up. Partly because I would not be able to step into a classroom with people and work on the things that I want to work on with them if I was thinking about the political stuff all the time, because I find it personally stressful. But I'm really glad for people who do have the stamina to do that. And I'm wondering who else in the room might have some suggestions for good books or other background information in terms of why we are where we are at.
I guess kind of an alternative sort of background information, but I write to a woman who's incarcerated, and that has really informed me a lot. Just hearing from somebody their day-to-day experiences being in the prison system, and it's really led me to believe that the reason why it is so fucked up is most of it's money. She would talk about she's allotted a certain amount of toilet paper per month, and if she wants more, she's got to buy it. And if she's going to buy it, she's got to get money transferred to her from somebody else. And there's a for-profit company that is associated with the Texas state prison system that administers a service where when if I were to send her money, they take a percentage, right? So just for that, if you want to call somebody who's in prison, you got to go through this service, and it costs a ton of money. If you want anything, and I don't know what it is. This person is trans, so I don't know how much you got to pay for feminine hygiene products, but I guarantee you got to pay for feminine hygiene products. So. So I connect with her through writeaprisoner.com, and I would highly recommend anybody. Not all relationships are going to be great, but you're going to learn a lot.
Siska, did you just happen into this situation, or did you pursue doing the prison program as you thought, oh, I want to do that? How did you get into it?
We had a little bit of a relationship at Del Arte with Pelican Bay. It started in 2010 when two students of mine wanted to do a project teaching in the prison, which, because they were students in the time frame, could not have happened. So instead they partnered through Sister Soul, and they did a bunch. They sent over the radio a bunch of writing prompts. Do people know Sister's program? Sister's Place on KHSU, so Sundays, R&B, soul. So she started as a DJ at HSU, and over the years discovered that she had a huge listenership at Pelican Bay because her discography mirrored their childhoods of many of the older men at the prison, like 40 up. And so they started writing her a lot, and she became a very strong local advocate for prisoners' rights and for the rights of formerly incarcerated people. And so these students, Gabe McKinney and Elizabeth Nelson, put out writing prompts over the radio and received over 300 pieces of mail based on those prompts, and they created a radio play which then was broadcast based on that writing. So that was in 2010, and because of that project, another fellow who's incarcerated there who had contributed to that project, he sent us a script of a couple of plays that he wrote. He's out now, and he's in San Jose. His name is Jose Villarreal. I can't remember if there were two R's, I think so. H. And he wrote two plays. The Worst of the Worst, which is when Pelican Bay was built in the late 80s, that was sort of the tagline, was that's where they sent the worst of the worst. And it's a little bit confusing because it makes it sound like that's where the worst criminals go. Like, people are always like, that's where Charlie Manson is, right? He's not, he's at Corcoran. I had to find that out, because I was like, oh, he is, oh God. But it's actually...
He's dead now. He's dead now.
He died recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, he's 83, I think.
Yeah. Anyhow, the worst of the worst was across the prison system, people who were troublesome within the system would be sent to Pelican Bay because of the security levels they have there. And the other exceptional factor about Pelican Bay is that it was built to house somewhere around, and I'm not exaggerating, 1,300 solitary confinement units. So, yeah, so if y'all remember the hunger strikes that happened in 2011 and 2013, so those were initiated by a short corridor, a group on a short corridor, I think it was Section 8, men who were incarcerated in the SHU, and across racial lines, this to me is very exceptional, in a positive way. They banded together and they wrote a document called The End to Hostilities. This is mirrored in dissident movements all over the world, is writing a document or a charter that is then given to the public to express a suppressed perspective, or to be able to make a political act in a situation where one is suppressed somehow. So the End to Hostilities basically was an agreement that everybody who's incarcerated in that prison would stop participating in prison gang activity, which is delineated along racial lines, and is tacitly supported by the prison administration because it's far easier to control people when you separate them out and pin them against each other, right? So that was the first thing they did, and then they initiated the 2011 hunger strike, which was strong and successful enough where state legislators promised them some change, which didn't come. Their demands were, kind of like, yes, we'll do it, ha-ha. And then nothing happened. And then in 2013, they initiated a second strike, which grew national. It lasted about 3 months. Perhaps 30,000 prisoners, I think I'm getting this number right, participated in it, and it is the largest prison hunger strike ever in the history of our country. And that one led to the passing of Prop 57, which guarantees people who are incarcerated access to rehabilitative programs and also limited how long somebody could be incarcerated in the SHU. So at Pelican Bay now, half of those units have been emptied out, thank goodness, those solitary confinement units. And, ironically, they've transformed that section of the prison into a level 2 facility, which is really strange because solitary confinement units are these no window rooms, everything is cement, there's a lot of blind corners for some reason, whereas in the other units in the prison where people live, even though they're in individual cells, there's usually a big open room in front of them. But it's a level 2 security, so they just leave the cell doors open and people more or less have free movement. Anyway, it's really Kafka-esque. It feels really strange. And John is at that level of security too. Oh, I got distracted. This is a playwright, and there's also this group does really strong advocacy out of Oakland. They came out of the hunger strikes, California prison focus, and he's been working with them too. Yeah. And I also wanted to point out there's this website, poeticjusticeproject.org, which I don't know who runs it, but basically I'm pretty sure these are folks incarcerated primarily at San Quentin Prison, and there are profiles of incarcerated artists who are looking for a mentor on the outside to communicate or correspond with to help them develop in their particular art form. So there's a short bio for each person and usually a picture, and what they're looking for in their mentorship, if you're interested, also along with this website to get in touch with somebody on the inside if that's something that you're interested in.
I know there's talk of abolishing prisons for profit. Is there anything currently in California
To abolish prisons?
or at least
Private?
for profit?
That I don't know. But as mentioned in the play, the CCPOA, again, I think I'm getting that acronym right, the Prison Guards Union, it's huge and powerful and full of money. So if that, I'm sure that movement theoretically exists, but I don't know whether or not, like looking to the people who are actually doing politics. I don't know.
Look, that is actually part of the Green Party's national platform, just to name it, and there is talk, at least in some circles, about trying to do a ballot initiative in the state of California that would literally forbid where's Carolina, to forbid the ability to make money from any part of the criminal justice system. So that's the sort of, I'd be happy. It's not my specialty, but I know that it exists, and I would, with a little bit of internet research, could put you in touch with those folks if you're interested.
I have like two separate ideas I would like your thoughts on, like transformative justice versus like restorative justice versus like punitive justice.
Oh God. That's the next section. Right?
Also, and like this concept of like throwaway people, like within like a throwaway society of like plastics and all sorts of those things. I'm not really sure if not anything you want to speak on, but
Yeah, incarcerate old people. They're easy. We incarcerate them in old people's homes, right?
yeah, just like tossing them out.
We're at time, and so what I'm just going to do is I'm going to write down that little triumvirate that you just mentioned, because I don't actually have, I haven't read a lot about either of these things, but
Restorative.
thank you. And then what was the third one?
Punitive, which is like what we have
Right. So different perspectives on what justice is.
And the other one is rehabilitative. Those are the theoretical concepts that they teach us in law school about what they are, or the underlying theories behind it.
Right. And there are restorative justice programs that are coming into the prison now, somewhere the person who committed the crime has a facilitated communication with the family of the person the crime is perpetrated against. So there are some of these programs. I'm not sure, because this is sort of, I guess, the most radical idea, whether or not that has any foothold in our system at this point. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Yes, David.
Before you do, I just want to say, yes, thank you. Would you please
Yes.
join me in thanking those of us who organized this are really eager to actually get your constructive critique and feedback, so I'm going to make sure that you get an evaluation form. Please especially pay close attention to the last part of it is what worked well, what would you like to have seen, and then the third one is what would you like to see either an artist, an organization, or a topic at the next Artist Dismantling Capitalism, because Cooperation Humboldt is dedicated to keep doing these things until we dismantle capitalism.
Dismantle.
Yes. So please, I'm serious, please do sign that and put it back in. Although I guess at Redwood Racks, because we're not in the playhouse. The other thing is, thank you so much. The other thing is, there is a, quote, closing session at Redwood Racks. If you would like to continue to sort of dialogue on what do we do with this sort of information.